Hello everyone, Kurt over here, and welcome back to another episode from Home Fighter Labs. Today we continue on with the armored sword section, and we're going to be looking at the Posta di Crose Bastarda, which is the last of the armored sword positions that are talked about. Now this one right here shares similarities between the Vera Croce in the fact that of how it's held. It also shows some similar. It also held some similarity things in regards to the Posta Breve Serpentina, in regards to how if you just turn around, you can find yourself right back into that position. But in this situation right here, we're seeing where the pommel is leveled forward. Again, similar to how the Vera Croce is, where the pommel side is towards our opponent, but we're much more lower where the tip is low. And we're going to be looking at this right here as far as some other considerations that come out of this that I think are really kind of cool, and also why they're beneficial to be used in just general. But before we get into that, please don't forget, like, subscribe, share with a friend out there. If you're new to this channel, please don't hesitate to also leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are, and also share with people out there, because we want to grow this channel, and that's not possible without viewers like you. So with that being the case here, everybody, let's get into it.
This week here, we're going to be looking at the Posta di Crose Bastarda, and it is the last of Fiore's armored sword that armored sword Posta in Guardia, as he shows us in the manuscript. And it is by far, and it's once again a position that allows for us to understand the structures of Porto di Ferro out of abrazare. So looking at this right here, we can see that it comes across in a way that we're playing low. And whether the sword is across or here, it doesn't necessarily matter, because a big part about this is that we have the ability to have similar concepts of the Vera Croce within the Crose Bastarda. So, big things about this right here is that this here, once again, depicts the crossing of the thumbs inboard. And we have ourselves like this in a way to be able to do the similar kind of plays of thrusting, which is very easy to do. I can also thrust. Maybe I thrust at a hand. Maybe I come across here and thrust in a face. It talks about passing offline and getting out of the way of the person. Now, a big part about this right here is that, again, it allows for the same kind of plays of Vera Croce, but it also says in here that it can deliver good thrusts and cuts. This, once again, ties back to the concept of how, from here, I'm simply able to strike out with it. And I'm right back in to being able to move in different types of directions. So why might we be cutting with this? Well, because these aren't modern sport gloves. There's webs in here to get hit in the hands. This is necessarily open. This may or may not be covered. But also, I might be utilizing this to break a thrust that comes at me, because of what we've seen within the sword in one hand section. And because I have the ability to grip this in so many different forms and fashions, I may be able to shift off, strike, up, turn, back, and I'm right back into a guard position. This right here does not necessarily change too much about anything we've already talked about. I just think that it's one of the things right here is anatomically in a position which automatically allows us to drop and to turn out. The Vera Croce, if I'm to do this right here, if I open it up, it still stays in the palm, whereas the Crose Bastarda, I can open and just drop, which allows the blade to move. And that might be one of the reasons why it states to be that it can deliver good cuts as well. But it always performs it, but it works to perform this with being offline. The thrust down here and being able to shift into different types of directions. It's costs nearly nothing to utilize. Again, it has that low position structure. And again, whether, I've seen people, there's times where we might see it in a similar guard like this right here. I know this is really depicted as ringette. The whole point right here is, again, he's showing it right here because, in my opinion, for defensive posture. Here, I'm very open, whereas with Fiore, he's opting for letting the armor protect you and then be able to optimize for different positions. So we've already started talking a little bit about what it can do, and also how we can already see some of the positions that come out of it. So let's keep exploring this a little bit right here. Again, this right here can be very much so right into a low serpent, back, striking, back, thrust, and right back into that bastard cross. And that basically means that from Crose Bastarda, I have the ability to, again, slow turn thrust, which allows us once again, move, parry, thrust, the same way we did abrazare croce and the other pieces. I also have the ways to be able to deflect. Maybe I come across this way and then strike off with it. So parry, strike, back in, and then turn. That kind of rotation allows for us to be able to play quite dynamically and nicely in many forms and fashions. Now, again, one of the big things about this right here that I think is also important is that it lends itself to another side of low serpent, high serpent. And from this right here, I can make the high serpent in crossing. So if I'm here in position, line up to protect myself, as the shot comes, coming over, I can push high into the high serpent thrust. I can also dominate that line and go into the low positions. If you remember what I said in the 6 dissimilar guard episode, positions of hands. This is anatomically stronger, but it is shorter as far as what you can do with your wrist. You can see right here my wrist and the gauntlet is limited. I can go full extension right here. I can do this right here, but now it's literally in the middle of my fingers. It's not the same way being gripped. I'm bending the blade here. And it also means I'm biting the edge of the knee. Here, hands relatively safe, easy to put across. So that's something else that comes with this right here, is that it is really nasty because it's stronger, but it is not necessarily longer in play, but it has the potential to switch out and play into different types of grips.
So as you can see with the video, this is, again, it's a very strong position, and it also has elements, again, of the sword in one hand position, at least how I see it, because again, like you're in a position where it's legitimately just the lead hand that just lets go, and you still have your strong arm on there to strike and go against something. It talks about, that it can parry, thrust, and cut well, but usually while being able to avoid attacks by stepping offline with lateral movement. To me, again, if you've seen this video, if you've seen this channel long enough, offline movement is just largo. It's moving. It's your sideways play when it comes down to things. And I think that one of the things about this right here is that he says that it has a good stock of attacks that can be delivered. Personally, it makes a lot of sense with this because from this position, you have all the sword in one hand plays that are readily available to you. You have all the 6 master dagger plays readily available to you. And you can, as well as the 8th master, when you start talking about different places you can go out of it. It's very easy to transition to other positions. It could go right into things like the high serpent or the low serpent. And it does the same things that abrazare croce does, but it has a stronger grip. At least that's what I think it shows, where the hands or the thumbs are aligned inward to making crossings into the center. Now, an interesting thing about this right here is, again, this is where the conversation of posta and guardia, to me, is so important. Because as I look at this image right here, one thing about this is, if this is a posta, this could be one of the things, like I said before, if you remember what I was talking about with the high serpent. If I'm in the high serpent, maybe I pass offline and I have a thrust, but it's the pommel. Well, that might be what's happening here. By coming down this way here, I have the pommel set, and then I can thrust forward from the low position with the pommel. And both of those are viable ways of being able to use this thing. But the bastard cross, I have no idea why it's called that. I would actually be very curious to see if anyone knows why it's called that. But what I will tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a very strong position. It's very nimble because it allows for many different types of things out there to happen, as far as the other plays we've already seen with an abrazare all the way up into this position right here. So I want to, as we end this position right here, talking about the sword positions of armor, I really want to share something here I've had, which has been a joy of, one, just training in armor in general, but also in doing all these shoots right here. I think it's really amazing just how dynamic these positions really are, and how much Fiore's manuscript, as well as just the practice itself, has shown how unclunky and how absolutely graceful this movement is. As I've said in previous videos, you are still limited and you have some encumbrance to you, but that doesn't mean the grace is lost. It just means it's changed. It's done in different directions. And this one right here, this position, and having used it before, is another way of, like I said, I can really see the brilliance in it and also the lightness of it because of, again, the ability to offline step, but also the awareness that it takes to know I'm going to shoulder into this, and I want to put my arm like this, because if you look at the picture, he's making it so that his elbow cup and this fan, the coutiere, this like right here on the elbow, is shielding the parts of his body that could come into danger. With one mezza volta, I can hit with a falso, with a volta stabile of the sword. I can hit with a true edge strike there. And I also have the ability to push into different directions. Remember, all those types of turns and everything are really available. And honestly, the way that I look at this right here, especially when you start talking about like how gauntlets are and everything, that kind of rotation, it's just really exemplified in this structure. So I want to cause this off right here because, again, what has been said about this position has already been talked about within others. But I also feel it is a position that shows, once again, much like the Posta Sagittaria, how dynamic these types of fights were, and not just so like running and get stuck with things. I think in the modern time, we're so focused on making the point and making a picture that we forget there's a lot of discussion and dialogue that happens before, like probing and shooting and all these other things out here, footwork, maneuvering, that we lose sight of that. I know I certainly did. And I share that because, again, as I've gone through the armored sword positions, it makes it so that this is a lot more dynamic, a lot more life-preserving, as well as really beautiful and graceful in its own style. So with that being the case here, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about all that. Like I said, I'm curious what your thoughts are and, again, how you've used this position or what you've been trained in this position. Again, really cool stuff out there, and I think it's kind of fun to kind of talk about. So with that being the case here, everybody, until I see you, please stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.